It's negative 50 degrees Celsius, enough to cause frostbite in less than a second. The pressure is so low, it would cause your blood to boil instantly. There is very little oxygen or protection from the sun's deadliest rays. Life as we know it could not exist here because DNA would not be able to form. This is the ozone layer. And there is a bizarre species that calls this place home. Minior, the Meteor Pokémon. Just like there are life forms that we never expected to encounter at the cruelest depths of the ocean, the unbreathable stratosphere may also harbor life. Of course, this life could not have anything like the pathetically fragile DNA that you and I have. So, what are Minior made of then? According to the Pokédex, Minior are born from mutated nanoparticles and live in the ozone layer, which is sometimes referred to as the edge of space, even though the atmosphere extends 10,000 kilometers above sea level. However, there is more to Minior than meets the eye because underneath this crusty looking shell is a core that could take any color of the rainbow. It is said that the color of the core is determined by the composition of the dust they consume. Yes, literally, they eat space dust. When the shell gets too heavy, or they are at risk of being eaten, Minior fall to the earth. The impact from colliding with the surface smashes the shell to smithereens. However, just like deep-sea creatures die when they're brought to the surface due to the change of pressure, Minior begin to fade away soon after they land on the surface. We can tell that Minior survived the impact because you can catch one in a Pokeball before it's faded away to preserve its life. Which begs the question, what would it take for an organism to survive atmospheric entry? The ozone layer is a region of the stratosphere between 15 kilometers and 35 kilometers above sea level, which shields us from basically all the most deadly UV rays from the sun. You may have heard of UVA rays, UVB rays, but UVC rays have literally enough energy to delete biological molecules from existence. Thankfully, those UVC rays are blocked by the ozone layer. Of course, many all live there, so obviously they can't be made of DNA. Instead, they are made of nanoparticles. Nanoparticles are particles between 1 and 100 nanometers in size. A nanometer is simply a billionth of a meter. 10 to the power of minus 9 meters. These particles are exceptionally reactive due to their high surface area to volume ratio. Also, they are extremely sticky because of the intermolecular forces of interaction between nanoparticles. These are technically known as van der Waals forces. So, nanoparticles caused by anything that burnt up in the upper layers of the atmosphere would come together. This would cause a suspension of carbon and metallic nanoparticles to form in the lower layers of the atmosphere. The core could be made of gold and silver nanoparticles. Due to the physics of how color is manifested, gold and silver particles do not necessarily have to be gold and silver. There can be a variety of colors. Meanwhile, the shell could be like a giant buckyball, which is just a sphere of carbon atoms. Due to its proximity to the vacuum of space, the ozone layer is subject to countless streams of highly energetic particles, highly energetic radiation, which causes electrons to be stripped off atoms in the atmosphere. This process is known as ionization, and it leads to particles with unpaired electrons known as free radicals. These free radicals are highly energetic and will stop at nothing to gain back their stolen electron. In fact, since oxygen and nitrogen are so abundant in the atmosphere, one oxygen molecule can react with an oxygen free radical, which is just an oxygen atom with an unpaired electron, to form a molecule with 3 oxygen atoms known as ozone. This ionization process can happen to nanoparticles, resulting in even more reactive nanoparticles. As a result, Minior can eat or absorb more of these nanoparticles at great speed. By the time they have fallen through the entire ozone layer, Minior increase in mass from 300 grams at its core to 40 kilograms. When a rock from space enters the Earth's atmosphere, it begins to collide with particles in the atmosphere. As it gets further into the atmosphere, the frequency of those collisions increases. In other words, the force from those atmospheric particles increases. This results in a transfer of the kinetic energy from the rock, which is technically known as a meteoroid, into the atmospheric particles. Well, a transfer of kinetic energy results in the particles in the atmosphere moving faster. And temperature is simply a measure of the average kinetic energy of particles. So this results in the meteoroid being heated up. However, there's a problem with this. I'm assuming, obviously, that the meteoroid is probably approaching Earth at 10 kilometers per second. Minior, on the other hand, are just drifting in the ozone layer, barely moving at all. Even if Minior traveled at 10 kilometers per second, its nanoparticle shell would probably survive because the arrangement of those carbon atoms allows for the vibrational energy to sweep across the surface with virtually no scattering. Stop. How can the shell be 40 kilograms if it's just 1 atom thick? Did I ever say the shell was just made of carbon nanoparticles? The shell and the core are the same size, which implies the shell is less than a millimeter thick. No material would be dense enough to explain the mass discrepancy with such a thin shell. What if Meteor for Minior was not just a shell, but fully filled with material? If the insides were packed with iron oxide and the silicate material, it could have enough density to be viable. Remember, these were all nanoparticles held together by weak intermolecular forces. So, when the shell breaks, all the oxides would burst out ballistically as dust, as all those forces break at once, leaving behind a lightweight core of vibrant gold and silver nanoparticles. Apart from falling due to physics, like an apple naturally falling from a tree, Minior can also fall prematurely, trying to escape a predator. This implies that Minior have a consciousness. Debatably. Alternatively, researchers may have given them too much credit. They are probably drifting away from the predator simply due to the particles bunching up around the approaching face of the predator. Since there is slightly more force on this side due to the higher pressure exerted by the particles, the forming minior and any other particle close by would be pushed away. If you've ever tried catching a speck of dust, you may have seen this effect of your approaching hand invisibly pushing it away. Of course, if you keep going, you can easily still catch it. So, Minior is terrible at avoiding predation, dies within a few moments of landing on the ground, and does not reproduce. Could Minior be on the verge of extinction? Let me help you there. Are meteoroids on the verge of extinction? Every day, 50 tons of space debris fall into Earth's atmosphere. That's enough to create 1,000 Minior each and every day. So as long as there are meteor showers, there will be Minior showers also. By the way, the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs was at least 1 trillion tons or 25 million Minior. That would be the most beautiful way to die. What? Imagine seeing the explosion of colors before your very eyes as it consumes the whole world in scintillating fashion, only for everything to turn black before the blast of nanoparticles cloaks your entire body. Speaking of fashion, the pastel colors of colorful Minior have inspired many designers and artists to produce exceptional pieces of work. Aren't free radicals in junk food and smoking and stuff like that? Yeah. Cool, I'm guessing they're like really bad for you? Yeah. Is this related to Minior at all? Well, I just remember you saying something about free radicals, blah blah, electrons, blah blah, death. Not once did I mention death. And then I remembered something that I saw online about free radicals in our bodies. Okay. Free radicals are molecules or atoms that have an unpaired electron. Why? Did I say I was finished? For several reasons, a molecule can lose or even gain an unpaired electron. It could be due to inflammation in the body, UV light, unstable molecules found in tobacco smoke, etc. I don't see it. Don't see what? Like, what's the problem with free radicals in my body? Free radicals are full of energy and will steal another electron at the first opportunity. This could be from a cell, it could be from a stray molecule, it could even be from DNA. Do we even have a problem? Yes! If those electrons are stolen from DNA, that causes the DNA to become damaged. Don't look at me like that. If I stole your money, what would you do? Take it back? Yeah, but I left the crime scene already. Take it from someone else. Exactly. Sorry, what? No, but that's what free radicals do. Once they take electrons from one molecule, that molecule takes electrons from another molecule, and that molecule takes electrons from another molecule. Don't the molecules know stealing is bad? What you were just encouraging it seconds ago, and what? Molecules don't think. Then how come we do? Are we not made of molecules, Professor? Right, very clever. Shall we move on? No, if free radicals are the bad guys, where's Captain Underpants? Doesn't really make sense, but I get your point. The heroes who will put the manic thieves in their places are none other than antioxidants. Antioxidants what? And what has any of this got to do with her? I said antioxidants, as in against oxidation, or more technically, oxidative stress. Wait, they cure stress? Why didn't you just say that from the start? Oh, I see you later, Professor. Well, never mind. Because Minior do not burn up the same way most meteoroids do, it means that a lot of space debris that would have otherwise been consumed by the atmosphere make its way on the surface. This has made Minior a precious resource for astronomers because Minior often contain exotic trace minerals that imply the existence of life in faraway places. Some of these minerals even resonate weakly with those stones that trigger mega evolution. However, some environmentalists have argued that human activity is causing Minior to fall more frequently than normal, which is resulting in an increase in the concentration of nanoparticles in the air to potentially unsafe levels. This has led some companies to invest in and fire rockets containing suspensions of heavy nucleation sites that would cause Minior to fall more quickly before it has the chance of accreting. Minior are approximate spheres of densely packed nanoparticles falling through the ozone layer, accumulating more charged dust, and surviving descent by exploding away their nanoparticle meteor form. While their shells are made of carbon and oxide nanoparticles, their cores are made of silver and gold nanoparticles, whose color depends on their exact composition. When they fall, they inspire scientists to develop new technologies, but they're basically a nuisance to everyone else. One thing everyone can agree on, though, is how beautiful their cores are. If you thought you liked the shiny luster of their cores, wait until you meet this Pokemon.